Yeah. Okay, here we go. Hello. Very good. G. Strength. Long. Oh, sorry.
All right, hello everyone. This is Mark Sabbagh with Openlogix. I'll start by just throwing a general statement out there. Anyone that is not from the Openlogix or Mimecast team, if you could go on mute, that would be great. That'll filter out quite a bit of any of the background noise generally. And hey, as a courtesy, if we could keep clicking to a minimum as well, that'd be great. So I might wait a minute here for a few more guests to join. Again, thank you for being on this webinar today, Security Awareness 101. We're looking forward to sharing some great information with you shortly. I'll just wait another minute here for some other folks to join on, and we'll get things rocking and rolling here. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, you got Rob, Harvey, and Jim Robinson here.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Great. Jen Gasparini at Mimecast is on as well.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's it's the closing in the 2:02 p.m. Eastern time. I think that's fair enough time to get things going. We've got a lot of our guests already logged in. Again, I'll just announce it one more time because a few more people jumped on when I was talking the first time. Again, it's Mark Sabbagh with Openlogix talking right now. Anyone that's not on the Openlogix or Mimecast team, if you could go on mute, that way we'll reduce as much of the background noise as possible. And we'll have a lot of great information to share with you in our webinar today, Security Awareness 101. Okay, so that said, like I said, my name is Mark. I'm with Openlogix. Just a quick little background. We'll keep it short and sweet about us. Openlogix has been an IBM business partner for over a decade as a value-added reseller, systems integrator, mainly. So we've done a lot of services for a lot of folks, mostly in North America. So we've recently aligned with strategic technology partners to aid in our ability to provide best-of-breed, next-generation solutions to meet our clients' goals, SLAs, etc. These succinctly selected technology partners featured on the screen here, Adobe, Arista, Innovate, Igneous, Infinidat, Elementrix, Mimecast, MuleSoft, Palo Alto, and Veeam, all solve unique business challenges which range from availability to security, speed, storage, scalability, integration, and interoperability. So our purpose is to be important to our clients and partners as reliable business, strategy, and technology professionals. So there's my 2 cents about what Openlogix does, and without further ado, I will turn it over to the Mimecast team. One of their engineers is going to speak with today for the bulk of this presentation, and that's Justin Bourgeois. Justin, I see that you're on. Did I get your name right?
Thank you for, yes, you did. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Justin Bourgeois. I am a sales engineer here at Mimecast. I'm going to be taking over the security portion of the Mimecast platform. And during this conversation, I am going to make some, what may be some assumptions, but it's going to be talking specifically around email, primarily Office 365 or on-prem Exchange. We do allow for and support really any email platform. We are largely email agnostic. However, most of the functionality I'm going to be talking about around end user interaction will be focused on those Office 365 and Exchange clientele. So with that, I'm going to begin sharing my screen just momentarily and start with talking about how Mimecast is really infrastructured from the ground up because of the way that we were really conceived on the internet as a cloud company. So over here, and we'll start here. Mimecast was born and bred in the cloud. We started here back in 2003 as an archive company, quickly rolling into the security landscape. And we've always had and always been a cloud-based company. We've never had that on-premise on-premise appliance that needed some sort of virtualization brought up into a sort of a cloud storage device or a cloud hosted device. It's always been 100% cloud. We have been built on our own infrastructure, our own OS, the MIME OS as we refer to it here. And this has actually allowed us to be a lot more adaptive and responsive to different changes in the threat landscape as new breeds and new campaigns have sprung up in the wild. And I'm going to touch upon those as we go through this demo. So first and foremost, Mimecast functions as an MX redirect. We become that first point of contact on all emails coming inbound, the last point of contact for emails leaving your organization through a send connector, and then through a journal feed, we gain insight into your internal east-west traffic. We do allow for end users to interact with the Mimecast platform, setting up their own white and black lists, maybe even managing their own list if you'd like them to, releasing any spam from their quarantine that we may be holding on their behalf. But those controls are ultimately left up to the admins in the adcon and what they want to give their end users the rights to do. We will also sync with Azure Active Directory, with on-prem Active Directory, as well as Google Suite directories to get better insight into who you are as end users, what your names are. And this helps us get a lot more granular on a lot of the security features we're going to talk about later, being able to scope individual policies, maybe even specifically right down to the individual end user. We take the stance that the more engines and the more layers we add to our security stack, the better off everyone, not only Mimecast, but everyone on our grid is going to be. The first and easiest things to do are those anti-spam, anti-virus checks, the content checks, the RBLs to look up, DMARC and DKIM checking. All of this is done as a sort of triage level of scanning right at the gateway. It's after that initial pass through the primary email inspection funnel in the middle that it gets into the more detailed heuristics, the more in-depth scanning that we do on the Mimecast platform around impersonations, URLs, and attachments. And those are what I'd like to actually focus most of my time today talking about. So with that, I'm going to minimize this, and I'd like to start by talking about impersonations. We here at Mimecast aren't immune to these new threats, to these new campaigns. Back in 2015, this is a copy of an email that was sent inbound. And this became sort of the Mimecast call to arms to really come up with a targeted solution to this new breed of threat we were now starting to see in the wild. And whoever sent this email, they knew what they were doing. They spoofed the right person. It's Peter Campbell, our CFO. They emailed the right person, Peter Fondini. They used a stolen credit card to buy Mimecast.com. And they only bought it just 6 hours before this email was sent. And then the rest of it is something I'm sure everyone on this call has seen. It was either asking for gift cards or asking for a wire transfer. And then even specific to this attack, they even use internal language we use here at Mimecast. So whoever sent this, and we still don't know, really did their homework and they knew what they were doing. This was just a few months before we got listed on NASDAQ, and it was truly a crucial time for the company. we do figure out what this is, and it's just simply in the punctuation and the capitalization, just being a little too clumsy for how Peter Campbell usually likes to type and speak. This is all we needed. This is the only indicator that really clued in Mr. Fondini that this might not be legitimate. There's then a subsequent conversation. We figure out what this is, and this becomes that sort of call to arms, our wake-up call that we need to come up with a specific response to this new breed of attacks. What I'm going to do now is actually go into the administrative console, and I want to walk you through the 5 criteria that we found in that email that we should now screen upon. What should we be looking for on all inbound emails? And this is how we determine the intended result. It's really hard to get a computer to analyze sarcasm or analyze intent. You can get it to do the simple things. Is it a malicious site? Is it something bad? Those are static. Those are easy. Those are kind of binary. But when it's just, cultural references and trying to gain a little intel onto the human psyche, that's something a computer really doesn't have the capabilities of doing. What we came up with, the 5 criteria, are really the best indicators that show that an impersonation attempt might be underway. The first and foremost, that Mimecast to Mimecast example. Is this sending domain within a certain character set of your own internal domains? Like Mimecast to Mimecast, we now have the capabilities of flagging on that. Next, how old is this domain? Do you need to do business with a domain that may have quite literally been born yesterday? We now have the capabilities of flagging on that. The internal username. Through our LDAP sync or Azure Directory sync, we'll know who your end users are, your CFOs, your CEOs. So if they get mentioned in a more traditional spoof, in like a reply to address mismatch, or maybe in something a little more targeted where they're actually ripping off and copying your generated signatures, either place, we'll see that name listed and we can now flag on that. And then lastly, this is getting down into the intent. What's their ask? What are they trying to get from you? And the campaigns that we have seen vary from wire transfers, send money, Western Union, gift cards, prepaid Visa cards, cell phone numbers, VPN credentials. All of these different campaigns that we have seen hitting our grid globally, that we've built these dictionaries around, that we can now flag on. And in the event that you have a more specific or unique position in your vector, in your vertical, we do allow you to create your own personal libraries. So if you're being targeted with a specific type of maybe account code or something along those lines, we'll let you upload your own dictionary, and now we can flag on those as well. So once we determine that an inbound email is an impersonation attempt, what do you need us to do with it? Most often, you're just going to simply bounce it. Your end users, your typical end user, probably can't do a wire transfer, or maybe they can't reset VPN credentials. Bounce it, they'll never need to see it. Maybe there's a specific use case where you put a hold for review. Let someone be in the middle, a security admin, a security team, do that last sanity check to determine if something should actually be delivered or not. Or deliver it. And at the same time, tag that body and tag that subject with some custom messaging to let that end user know, hey, this is coming from an external source, or reach out to this security admin listed by name, or maybe even a DL that you want to include in here. Reach out to this team, ask them if this is something that you should be even considering or not. Now, I skipped over a little bit earlier, and in one of the things, this is actually a new feature set on the Mimecast platform, and what we're now looking for is supply chain attacks. So as a customer of Mimecast, you can upload your VIDs, as we would sometimes like to say, your very important domains. These might be your partners. These might be your vendors. These might be your clientele. Give us a list of those domains, and we can protect from those domains as well in supply chain and impersonation style attacks. The most common example that's easy to explain is if you have a partnership with US Steel and me as a malicious actor decide to buy the domain U5 Steel, would all of your end users actually see that difference? Would your end users click on anything, any links I sent to them? Maybe, maybe not. But with our custom external domains list monitored, we can now protect in those style of attacks. And it doesn't matter if it's simple intentional misspelling, or maybe they get a little more sophisticated and start using character sets from different alphabets, Cyrillic or Latin or even Greek. We have the capabilities on our platform to protect against that. So this is impersonation protection and how we handle it on every email coming inbound. Lastly, this portion, these two rather, both the Mimecast and the custom one. I'm sorry, was there a question? Okay, I will continue. These two lists now spill over into the next feature set I want to talk about, which is how do we deal with URLs coming inbound? And again, like that U5 Steel domain, if I send you a link going to that site rather than spoof the domain, we have the engines in place that will actually be able to stop those URLs, since they are now part, that US Steel domain is part of your monitored domains list you want us to be looking out for. So that impersonation not only applies to the sending domain, but also any URLs that may be included in emails. That's the first level for URL protection. Next, we scan every URL at the gateway. And this is more common fare for all the other security vendors in the space. And it's security, scanning at the gateway, rewriting links, and we aren't different in that regard. We do a lot of the same type of scanning at the gateway, rewriting of links. However, what happens after you click is where we start to actually differentiate ourselves from the competition. This chase.com link has been rewritten and it's redirecting to a Mimecast domain. When I click this, what we are doing is actually scanning and checking for Java exploits, malicious payloads, excessive web redirects, in line with resolution. And this is where we are unique. Most other vendors rely on out-of-band URL sandbox technology. When you click a link, you go to that site, as well as send that site to a sandbox to test. But if it's a bad site, you've already been allowed to proceed. With Mimecast, we don't allow you to proceed until we have finished and we have determined if it's a safe place to go. In addition to that, we can also take the time and try to educate your end user. Make this a teachable moment. You thought you were going to chase.com as an end user. But you can see here, here's the actual address you're resolving to. It's someplace in Australia. This isn't a chase.com address. Do you still think you should proceed? Is this harmful? If your end user clicks it's harmful, they're a little more security minded. Congratulations, you spotted a bad link. But if they're not, because we've done our scan in line with resolution, we have the capabilities of stopping you from getting there. Last thing I want to bring your attention to on this page is this. We are tracking and auditing everything for the admins on the inside. Back into my administrative console, to my URL protection threat dashboard. Here is a sort of quick overview of health of the system. What are we doing on your behalf around URLs? What are we scanning per day? Which direction those URLs are flowing? We sort them by category. We sort them by URL. We sort them by clickers. And we even allow you to sort by malicious clickers. These are your problem children in your organization. These 7 people need a little bit of extra hand-holding, a little bit of extra education. Hover before you click. Watch the security video. If you're using our awareness training video, maybe subject them to a couple of extra modules or maybe some extra fish tests. These are the people that need it the most. Now, lastly, the last pillar to talk about inside Mimecast for targeted threat protection is how do we deal with attachments? Typically, I would like to ask, what the most common attachment type that people deal with on a day-to-day basis, but the answer is mostly the same. It's going to be PDFs and it's going to be Excel files. Mimecast will give you two options in how you deal with attachments coming inbound. Both are available to you to mix and match. You can use them in parallel. You can use them in sequence. The first one being save file. This is strictly intended for macro-enabled documents. We will take anything that can be macro-enabled, so your PDFs, and your, sorry, someone put us on hold. I'm gonna check the person's list to see if I can fix it. Jen, I think that's gonna be on you. Can you mute that person?
Yeah, hang on.
Thank you.
Music on hold is brought to you 2.1 FM.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. I am actually a little curious of who the music on hold is brought to us by. Okay, so, and the attachment comes inbound that's macro enabled. We can parse out any of the underlying code, macros, and scripts, and just simply deliver raw content down to end users. It's rendered into a 100% read-only format, so there's nothing in the underlying background that can run and infect machines. It's intended to be a sterilized version of the original. If, however, that individual actually does need the original, they can request that that original, in this case, Excel file, goes through the sandbox security stack, is subjected to our scanning and our sandbox security stack. That's what I'd like to talk about next. Now I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint to actually do so. So the first and easiest things to do when it comes to our sandbox security stack is someone trying to send you an exe or a JavaScript? The obvious dangerous files you outright deny. Next, and this is going to start speaking back to the way we're architectured in a global grid. Has anyone anywhere in the Mimecast grid globally seen this particular attachment before? If this is part of a campaign to send out a new emotet variation, if our client in Australia has seen it before a client in New England, that Australian version of that attachment will be the same since it's part of the same campaign. We will actually take the signature, since we've already sandboxed for that Australian client, and update the entire grid, so now that everyone is now protected from that one instance hitting that one client. And this is something that we do like to pride ourselves in that we are a lot more adaptive. We don't have 40 or 50,000 different VMs we need to push updates to a couple times a day. Our updating happens instantaneously across the entire grid globally. However, in the case of this attachment, if we've never seen it before, you are patient zero for this one particular thing. Whether it's malicious or not, you're the first one to see it. Then that means this is the first time we have seen it. We don't know if it's malicious. Okay, next step. Our commercial AV engines then start take a crack at it. Have they ever seen this attachment before? Do they know if this is malicious? And if they haven't, okay, fourth step, static file analysis. This is through a recent acquisition that Mimecast made, I think roughly last summer, of a company called Solvit. They now allow us to detect executable code without actually executing anything. It looks to see if there are certain patterns, such as calling out to an IP address, encrypt something on a hard drive, making a registry edit. These things, while not indicative of being an attack, do mean that we need better analysis, and we need to actually send this attachment into the sandbox for full detonation. Our sandbox itself is an emulation-based environment. This means that it's not only a Windows 10 machine, it's also a Windows 8 machine. It's also a Mac. It can simulate different keyboard clicks and mouse movements. It can simulate custom wallpapers. It can even simulate different CPUs. What we also allow it to do is simulate the opening and closing of laptop lids. And that one is particularly important because it was an evasion technique we were seeing back in 2016 during the big Petya and WannaCry outbreaks. Another common evasion technique is this one here. And this evasion technique isn't actually trying to evade detection. It's actually trying to evade the law. The reason people look to see what your default system language is that the country of Russia won't prosecute you as a cyber criminal unless you have a victim that is Russian. If this detects that the Russian language is installed, this payload stays dormant. If it isn't, then it actually takes an action. Lastly, what is the processor running in this environment? This particular evasion technique is looking for your older i3s and i5 processors. Your virtualized sandbox technology, the technology that other vendors like to rely on, need bleeding edge tech. They need cutting edge, super fast, super resource intensive, because that's the way they run. Well, this is going to evade that because we're looking for older machines. We're looking for 5 or 6 year old machines. They are probably not going to be up to date with patch levels. They're probably not going to be up to date with fire signatures, but they are going to have a lot of data ripe for ransom. This is a lot of reporting that you can expect on anything that does eventually reach that sandbox level. Now, lastly, the last pillar for security in Mimecast is how we deal with internal threats. This is more intended for either the compromised, the careless, or even the malicious insiders. We here at Mimecast will get copies of all internal emails through the journal feed that you've set up on the server or in Office 365. We will turn on the URL protection engines as well as the attachment protection engines, the sandbox, for outbound and that internal traffic. Should we find that there's something malicious crossing your network internally through the Office 365 APIs or the on-prem Exchange EWS URL, we'll reach back into your environment to remediate those threats. We'll reach in, pull it out of the inbox, pull it out of the sent items of the sender. And if it's something that we detect that's malicious going outbound, we can just simply block it or notify and block at the gateway. We've heard use cases in either way, whether or not you'd actually want an end user to know that their outbound emails are being blocked. If it's a compromised insider, you probably don't want to tell that malicious actor that their campaign is failing. So don't tell them. However, if it's a little more legitimate, you may actually want to notify that end user. And we've heard use cases either way. So we will give those keys over to you to make that determination of whether or not you should allow and notify or not. Then lastly, what we also have capable in our platform is the ability to actually apply DLP policies to that internal traffic. So I may set up and may be changing my banking information. I now need to tell payroll I have a new ABA routing number, or I'm changing my direct deposit information, but I fat finger and send it to Rob in sales rather than the Rob in payroll. With our platform, you can set up DLP policies so that we can detect ABA routing numbers, social security numbers, credit card numbers, and pull the same type of remediation action in the event that we see that traffic crossing the network. We also allow you to be a little more proactive in what you need to pull from messages within our platform. And the case that I like to use here is if there's a disgruntled employee who's being let go, but before he is or she is, they send out some profanity-laden email to everyone, the all.dl or whatever it might be. With our platform, you can just simply drag and drop that initial email into this console. We will search to see who has received it, and you can then start that remediation directly from here. Now, the last key feature of now trying to bring it back full circle is speaking back to that global architecture using the microservices that we've been built on. Should we find an attachment coming inbound that's now deemed malicious, but for some odd reason we haven't caught it in other places? Unfortunately, there's no perfect product. Everyone can and will make mistakes. But if we find that there's been a bad attachment that has been allowed inbound, bad email, when our global grid updates with that new virus signature of this bad attachment, we will search back through our global grid to see if anyone else has actually received this attachment. And then if we detect that, oh, that attachment also was delivered to a customer in Australia, we'll begin the remediation from their mailboxes too. So this then kind of sums up the security offerings of Mimecast. I know there was also some talk about how we want to discuss some extra DLP functionality. We also would like to talk about some awareness training. But now I'm actually going to kick it back to Jen, or kick it back to Openlogix to maybe pause for a moment and allow me to take a drink.
Sure thing. Thank you, Justin. Any questions so far out there?
All right, so that works, Rob. That's actually what we had on the agenda today, was to actually make sure we carved out a little bit of time to talk about security awareness training, and you know, maybe not get ever so technical today.
Okay. All right. So I can make a. I'm going to actually hold on just a second. Yeah, there we go. All right. I had my drink. I'm good. I can go for a couple. I can go for a little longer. So what we've talked about is security and strictly the Mimecast options and how we deal with the new threats in the security landscape. However, as a company, we really feel that security is only really part of the issue. We feel that your end users should be part of the human firewall, is a security asset, as it were, in the grander scheme of cyber resilience. What we have, and what I'm going to be showing you for the next few minutes, is our awareness training platform, which is designed to educate end users, give them some insight into not only what a security risk is, but how it may affect them in their personal and professional lives. The way we do that is we have made another acquisition of a company called Atata, and they had a bunch of modules and videos put together by a acting troupe that Amy Poehler, I think, manages. Manages or owns. I'm not entirely sure what the frame is there. They have done work on late night TV shows. They've done work with Saturday Night Live, and it's intended to engage end users in a humorous and emotional way. We feel that your standard phishing campaigns, click and drool type videos just don't work, and we have the studies to back that up. What we feel you should do is engage in with your end users, get their sense of how they feel about security, figure out how not only how they feel it applies to them, how knowledgeable are they in security, and as well as how much do they actually care. We will test and prompt your end user with some questions at first in the iteration of our awareness training. Get a sense for how they feel, how they think, and how knowledgeable they are about security. Then present them with a short video. It's again intended to be humorous. It's intended to be engaging. They're no more than 3 minutes long, and we feel that these short little micro blurbs of testing engagement on a continuous basis, maybe on a monthly or maybe twice a month, will help to get them to retain the knowledge that you're trying to pass along to them. What we then do after we have sort of gone through the iterations, had their training, shown them the videos, is we'll now start to actually track and give you metrics on how are they improving or not improving in security. We allow you to track by watch lists, who has made what achievements, and the risk score is the way you would gain kind of a quick ROI overview. Get an idea for who's improving, who isn't, who is sitting at a very low risk score, who's sitting at excellent risk scores. And maybe take changes proactively and engage in the users that aren't doing so well to help them get on board, to understand that, yes, talking about a current merger that your company might be going through in a cab isn't a good idea. And if that information is slipped out, it may affect them in their personal lives. We also will gauge your engagement, your company, in its total security sort of mindset against other players in your vertical. We have metrics on the most verticals and across the country, and we can actually show you how does the finance department, the finance vertical compare with energy. Compare you to everyone else that we've had metrics on. Compare you to other companies within your vertical, and then even compare your even own departments inside your own company. So this is sort of it's a quick iteration of the kind of our stance in how we want to present and help educate your end users to become security assets. I personally, this is more of a personalistic and stylistic choice, don't like to actually show videos, because over Zoom and over WebEx, the video just doesn't come through very clear. And I know that people's ears are a lot quicker to be offended than people's eyes, and the audio quality does start to drop when we are on a larger web conference like this. So what I would like to do is, and maybe go through the Openlogix, is invite you to come and see a awareness training demo by Mimecast that we will actually dive deeper into this platform, show you how the phishing campaigns actually work with this, how the individual modules are laid out, as well as better insight into the metrics and how granular you can set each individual module and target the individuals that may need it.
And for those of you who cannot wait to see the AT video until or want to see it immediately following the demo, I'm going to post a YouTube link in chat. It's not an actual module that you're watching, but rather an introduction to the two main characters of the Mimecast AT platform, those being human error and sound judgment.
Okay. And with that, I would like to pass back the reins to Openlogix and maybe open it up for questions.
Great. Well, thank you. This is Mark with Openlogix again. I think the idea for having some questions right now would be great. Usually the format is to ping them along, and if people ping you with questions, you answer them. Does that sound good?
That's fair.
Yep. I'd say let's give the next couple minutes here. I'll sort of try to wrap up here verbally, and if you have questions, please just ping them to Justin, and we'll wait a couple minutes to see if any questions come through, and then we'll answer those to wrap up. Otherwise, anyone that RSVP'd for this event and tuned in for this event, we have been recording it the whole time. We are going to post the recorded version of this on the Openlogix website, the same page that we used for folks to register if you ended up registering via the website. Anyway, so with that, I hope this was a 101 level of informativeness for everyone, sort of scratching the surface on the Mimecast platform and awareness training in general. Those are some very important topics to button up, I would say, on any enterprise level business. So with that, did you get any questions over there, Justin?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right, fair enough. Oh.
And for everyone, I did post that link in the chat for the AT video. It's a great video, as it gives a really good idea of kind of the pace and the humor involved in the AT content. So if you see it in there, just feel free to copy and paste it, toss it in your browser to watch once we hop off. If you're not seeing it though, let me know, and I can figure out another means to get that URL to you.
All right. Well, again, this is Mark Sabbagh with Openlogix. I suppose if there aren't any pressing, immediate questions, I'll follow up with everyone that's relevant to follow up with. And thanks so much for tuning in. I hope it was informative for you today.
Thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.